E-government's about making government more effective and more responsive to citizens and to businesses. It's about enabling people to access government via their PCs, via their Dreamcast machine at home, via their digital television, via their WAP phones, by any method they want to use. But it's also about making government more responsive to them and enabling them to respond in an appropriate manner.
The UK government has actually set some very significant targets for growth in terms of the interactions it has with citizens on the internet. It's looking at about an increase from 8% of citizens using the internet to interact with government at the moment, growing to about 40% by the year 2002. It's a huge growth, and not all growth will just be fueled from information provision, which is largely what it does at the moment. It also, I think, that has underpinned very strongly by a lot more transactional processing, by citizens interacting with government where there's transaction.
The key driver for change is the way citizens like to experience government services. Increasingly, your approach to the way in which you receive services from a whole range of people, from sources of entertainment, of information, from providers of goods and services, is increasingly individualised. And that means that it no longer makes sense for the government to see me as an individual, but as a series of different identities that all need servicing in different types of ways. So I, as a citizen, expect that government to be approaching me in that much more personalised and individualised way.
The two key areas where we would like to help the government are in knowledge sharing and best practice, so that the processes government use are improved and that they go across the whole scope of the public sector, enabling joined-up government. One key area where this comes into play is, of course, in policy making. The way policy making is carried out at the moment is that the policy maker refers to his or her black book, calls up the people they think they should be calling up, and gets their views. With a knowledge management system, there's a certain amount of self-selection. People can identify whether they're interested in this activity, they can input, and the policy that's therefore derived wider, broader, deeper, better.
Well, what the internet offers the opportunity to make interactions between government and business much quicker, cheaper and easier. And the benefits that will go on for that are that it will free time up. So for people in business, this means that they can spend more time on what they want to be doing, which is pursuing their commercial activities. It'll also free time up for government as well, so that will mean that they will have more time to focus on the higher value services they deliver to the business community.
We think that government can make three major sets of savings. The first of those sets of savings is in communications with citizens. If government can just put some 20% of those communications onto the internet, we reckon government can save £5 billion. If they can get 50% onto the internet, they can save considerably more. As I say, just 20% saves £5 billion. Then we think they can save another £1 billion from the use of electronic procurement instead of paper-based procurement. And finally, we think they can save £7.5 billion from using the technology internally, just like BT's intranet, but of course government is much, much bigger. And that makes a total of some £13.5 billion worth of savings.
The changes that you've heard about already that have happened within BT and are really now starting to happen within government have happened and continue to happen in companies and businesses right the way throughout the UK economy. And those changes are driven partly by the much lower cost of doing business online and therefore dramatically lower cost structures right through the value chain for companies. And also, I guess, by the increased impetus towards reducing the size of large companies, the parallel growth in people who are self-employed or working for smaller companies, growing very, very rapidly in this economy.
BT has financed this report from Henley and Murray to look at government readiness to introduce e-systems and the citizens' readiness to use e-systems. We're trying to do is to gauge along that graph exactly where we are. We can identify the additional things we need to do to prepare both government and the citizen for total satisfaction with implementation of these systems. And it's important that we do that early. When we implement new systems, we get early success. because early success then has its own motivation and its own momentum, and that's the key to the cultural change.